car was just saying, I wonder if they know what the program was about, because you didn't get much explanation about this school choice program here in Washington, D.C. And it's an extension of the vouchers movement. In 2003, I believe it was, when the Supreme Court finally voted that vouchers are not unconstitutional. It is not unconstitutional for parents to take their children to any school of choice, even if it's a religious school. And unfortunately, after that ruling, they didn't go far enough to say it is unconstitutional to force certain kids into certain schools. Therefore, we have to go neighborhood by neighborhood, school board by school board, city by city to fight for school choice vouchers. And what happened here under the direction of Virginia Ford, the woman that you saw in the video, what a warrior for today. I'll never forget when the Wall Street Journal did a column about her after they finally got those 1,800 children freed from the grip of the government to be forced into poor schools. She marched young kids to the Capitol every single day after day after day to say, why can't my child go to the same school that all of the you legislators' kids go to? And right after they finally got that $7,500 per child voucher to be able to take their children to any school, then they had to run and find the schools that had slots available and put them in there. The Wall Street Journal did a piece that said, yes, Virginia, there is school choice. Unfortunately, when Barack Obama came to office, it was one of the first things that they decided that they were going to take away from those that elected him. And other than making sure that they still kill their children in the womb. You think about the current abortion rate. I mentioned the other day to somebody it's $300,000 a year in the black community, and he had to put his fork down. He never thought about it in terms of a daily rate at 1,452. I just wanted to explain that. That is not what I came up here to talk about. And there's one other thing that I need to mention that Nigel said when he made reference to the war on terror in the urban centers. It's because 25% of the Muslim community in our country are African Americans, and their recruitment through the Nation of Islam has been in our prisons for the last 35, 40 years. And one of the reasons it has taken such a stronghold is because this is a community that is looking for and passionately dying for entrepreneurial opportunities. And so, as many of you now found out about Acorn, that has taken root in these communities for an awful long time, and it's just bubbling up to the surface. Nation of Islam has also done similar work by being one of the only economic bases in most of our urban centers, and therefore it's a very attractive option to what else is available there when it comes to employment. Most African Americans in this country actually work for some form of government. It's one of the reasons that when they hear messages of limiting the role of government, they think jobs, because unfortunately my presentation has to move a little bit away from what the title of this panel was supposed to be, and I don't see a clock, so I'm just going to say a few words, and I'm going to hope that you ask the questions for why you're here. I'm amazed to see all of you here. I'm so thankful because not only do they have another panel going on, but Ann Coulter's doing her book signing right now. And she's a good friend of mine, but I'm going to make sure the next time we're not up against somebody of such magnitude that you perhaps would have liked to have been a part of, but you would spend that time just trying to search with us on how we are going to do the little work that we have to do to make sure that we increase our numbers, and those that are polling after polling, that there are conservatives, especially in the African American community. Those polling numbers are now up to 33% that say that they are not only evangelical, but they are conservative. And we have not done as a community of conservatives is go out and find them, get them, round them up, educate them, and then activate them on our side to let them know that our ideals work for them as well, because they are ideals of America. The reason that I felt that my presentation might be a little bit inconsistent with the name of this panel, which was Saving Freedom in the Inner Cities, is because freedom hasn't really been exhibited in the inner cities yet. So when you talk about protecting freedom, which is what we saw over the last year with the activists of the town halls, and then it evolved into the tea parties, and now we've actually been able to get some things done in Washington to stop the onslaught of socialism. The reality of freedom has never materialized in our urban centers. So they're actually coming from the other side to say, what does all of this mean? When I relocated my office here full-time about 3 years ago, I told one of my supporters, I felt like I moved from Sodom to Gomorrah. And he said not to give Gomorrah such a bad name. And once I got here and got really rooted in, I found out exactly what he was talking about, because within 1 month they were putting up Nancy Pelosi billboards all over town. And within 2 years we lost the presidency. And so it's very difficult for me, of course, to do my work But more specifically, it's very hard for us to do our work, because in order for us to complete the work of welfare reform, we have to move into a message of empowerment. We have to move people from entitlement to empowerment. And the biggest challenges facing America today, and those that are going to have a heavy financial hand against us coming very quickly here, are the entitlement programs. In fact, it was just recently, I think September, Social Security absolutely runs out of the monies that it has allocated to those that are just currently on the system. So we are going to have to get buy-in from these low-wage communities into our ideals if we really want them materialized for all of America, and in particular for those that need the most. Those that are in our at-risk communities are the ones that need our ideas the most. They need school choice. Rich people are not going to need a voucher necessarily. I think that education should be free, and the government should not be in that competitive business. If they are going to have a mandate that every parent has to send their children to school or they're going to take them to jail, then the government should not be the same one that says which schools, nor should they be the ones that are in the education business with them. I believe also when it comes to Social Security reform, although everybody should be free to take their resources and put them in a personal retirement account so that they will have to transfer to their children, this manipulation of government actually hurts those that are most at risk most, because the only little bit they may have to be able to save and pass on is forced in a black hole that they don't own. They have no return on that investment, and they cannot then transfer. When we can go through a list of the different programs and ideas that we talk about here in Washington often, that for those centers, those inner city communities, it is even more imperative that we reach these ideas there, because these ideas are what will transform them into health. Now, what was mentioned by Jennifer earlier in her presentation was the cripple of the black family, and how this has actually become a shackle to be able to move into the freedom that they had so desired. And the reason that I said that they have not realized any type of freedom yet is because when you think about just that experience, the fact that this nation has politicized minorities should concern us, because if you try to look for what that actually means, it's just a political term for manipulation to redistribute. Redistribution is frankly unscriptural, and it's one of the reasons that I'm so heavily against it. Some of you don't know my story. I lived the lie of the left, so I come from a very aggressive background, including 7 years in and out of their welfare state, 3.5 years consistently, and it wasn't until I received Christ that I was able to transform my life and find out that, frankly, socialism is rooted in covetousness, and the scripture says don't covet. Somebody has something somebody else.
Right.
Somebody has something somebody else doesn't have, so we have people conditioned to hire politicians to go take it from them. And what's happened is we've actually damaged the very people that we say that we're trying to help by even just one program, our welfare program, redistributed $400 billion a year, and less than 20 cents on the dollar actually reaching the houses that we say we're trying to help. But when you think about the black community, because this is the only people group in our society whose experiences are unique to any other low-wage and or what we might consider minority communities. Most other minority communities and or ethnic groups came from oppression looking for freedom. And in this country, they found the freedom expressed through our founding fathers, the ability to, in one generation, not be at the same station where you started. African Americans, on the other hand, came from a more free or complex situation into slavery, from slavery into Jim Crow, from Jim Crow into the welfare state. So when you talk to this community about ideas of freedom, it's something that is still in the fear category because they've never really experienced it. You talk to this community about limiting the role of government, and all of a sudden they start getting antsy about, is the marketplace a fair and equitable place? You talk to this community even to define social justice, and it's rooted in this concept of revenge. You think about even their hero, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He was not looking for revenge. He was looking for repentance, actually, and redemption, not revenge. He was looking for education, not to get even. So the people that picked up the banner after him have done a tremendous disservice to the very people that they say they were trying to serve, which is the black community in this country, by having them buy into this idea that government is their solve-all. So now government has been entrenched in these communities since Jim Crow ended, since the win of the civil rights movement, and all we see is excessive welfare programs, whether it's welfare individual through what we used to call AFDC, which is now TANF, or whether it's welfare in that every time the Democrats are in control, they expand the hand of government by employing that community. When you're looking at a community at 65% work for some form of government, we have a